have a really nice lineup set up already for the entire year, and Sean is going to start us off. So I will hand it over to him. And just so that you know, we are recording. So if you don't want your face to be shown, you can turn your camera off. And then we will have some time for questions at the end of Sean's lecture. So I hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. My name is
Oh,
Sean.
Sean, bring your microphone down.
Okay.
On your headphones. There. Great.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Sean, and I work at the Department of the Energy Resources, University of Stavanger. So specifically, I'm involved in the work package 1 at the center. So today, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share my recent research on enhancing the comprehension of the Zechstein group for subsurface storage optimization. So this presentation will be short, but it will focus on the following contents. So first, it will be a regional process on salt site screening. A second, how to determine internal phases of salt structures. Third, use multiple seismic attribute technology to uncover the fracture zones induced by salt depression. Finally, I will present a simplified implication for subsurface energy storage in salt caverns. As you already know, researchers focus on salt structures because of their potential of large-scale energy storage in salt caverns. Salt caverns, they are especially suitable for energy storage due to their physiochemical and mechanical properties that ensure the safe and efficient storage events, even at high pressures. And also, these salt caverns, they are perfectly impermeable and fire or explosion impossible on the ground. So if we look back 12 years, salt caverns have already played an important role in underground gas storage. In this context, so salt caverns required a low portion of cushion gas, but it allowed a higher peak visual capacity. A recent study done by Tarkovsky, etc. So they suggested that the total estimated hydrogen working capacity of the most existing salt caverns, note here is existing salt caverns. So in Europe, so that is 50 watt hour or TWH. I'm sorry, a bit nervous because this is my first presentation. And note that, so in Norway now, so the whole country currently lacks any existing salt caverns. So however, Minogo at al. So they evaluated hydrocarbon storage capacity across the Europe in salt caverns and suggested that Norway has the potential in offshore salt caverns. So the Norwegian sector of the Southern North Sea is a well-known example of a basin rich in salt structures. Marine at AL, and they interpreted salt structures within the Upper Permian Zechstein group and mapped their distribution and their buried depths. The average buried depth of these structures is around 2.5 kilometers, and the thickest parts exceeding 1.5 kilometers. So in these maps, if you look at this one, you focus on the purple color. So these are the thick part of the salt structures. In order to screen out the sweet spots for energy storage in salt structures, so we need to understand the structure, the shape, geometry of these structures. So the author, they already mentioned that, so they are at least four kinds of geometry of these salt structures, which include these weakly deformed salts and also the potential magnesium uh, absent salt structures, and also these salt pillows with potential and magnesium elements. What I'm especially focused on are these tall diapirs, because in general, for these tall diapirs, so it comprises halite units, which is more than 300 meters, and the most importantly, the buried depth is less than 2 kilometers. And these elongated diapirs have lateral continuity, but there are also some challenges in relation to this short diapirs. First would be the high deformation. So second, that's because of the limitation of our seismic data. So it can have poor seismic image. And also, we need to consider the cap rock. So it can reach 100 meters. And also, because most of these structures, not many well has been penetrated through it, and we do not have much lithological control to them. But still, for a regional screening, I introduced these figures which highlights all of the technical requirements to make salt caverns, which includes the buried depth and the depth of the cavern to the seabed, and also the distance to the surrounding rock, and the dimension or diameter of the salt cavern, and the distance between these salt caverns. But for the regional screening, so we only focus on three technical parameters. First is the buried depth. So it's required these salt caverns, salt diapirs should be shallower than 2 kilometers, but the thickness of these salt structures should exceed 500 meters. And the third parameter is the area. So the area should be more than 2 square kilometers. So when we look, so now let's look at the result. First, we screen out the areas with a buried depth less than 2 kilometers. Then we introduce the thickness is more than 500 meters. The last one, we introduce the area requirement. So after these three parameters, now we can see there are only 44 salt structures are screened out as the sweet spots. So the total area of these salt structures is more than 639 square kilometers. The average size of these salt structures, so they have 14.5 square kilometers in size. As I said previously, so there are some uncertainties regarding these sweet spots. So first, because of the interpretation of these salt structures is based on the combination of 2D and 3D seismic interpretation. So 2D seismic interpretation might lead to some uncertainties and the bias of the interpretation. And as you can see from these sweet spots of the salt structures, most of these areas are not do not have well control. So now there are some questions to be answered. So are all of these polygonal areas suitable for underground storage operations? And how can this halide dominated phases can be identified within these salt structures in these areas without wells? So in order to answer these questions, we defined a study area in the southern North Sea with an area of 2,540 square kilometers. So this polygonal area is covered by 3D seismic data. And you can see in here, in this area of interest, there are 9 salt sweet spots are included. This is the structural map of the top Zechstein group. And on the right, so that's the thickness map. So in this structure and the thickness map, you can see this study area include 2 salt diapirs. So I name is salt diapir number 1 and number 2. And there's also a big salt wall was interpreted in the northeastern part of the study area. Previous work, they used the well logs and combined with the seismic data to show the internal phases of these halide-dominated salt structures. So usually for this halide-dominated salt, so they have very low gamma ray, and the density is about 2 gram per cubic centimeter. And you can also define the sonic and also the DT log responses with these well logs. Based on these well log expressions, so it allows us to interpret where are these halide dominated salt structures. So as shown in this chart, so that's the green area. So that's the halide dominated salt phases. Although in our area we do not have much well control, but outside the area, so we have this seismic expression and in the combination of well logs. So we defined a halide dominated salt phases out of this anhydrite dominated salt phases. So within this halide dominated phases, so we have 2 sub phases. So one is the halide is pretty pure, and on the seismic, you can see this one has a low amplitude, medium frequency, and is very chaotic. And the most of the cases is structureless. But for these halides, occasionally interlaid with very thin claystone layers. So this one will give you a slightly better continuity than this one. So based on this, we think that these halide dominated phases would be the favorable salt phases that allows us to make the salt caverns. If you look at the seismic profile in here through the salt diapir number 1, so now you can see on this seismic profile, so here are the classified internal salt phases. So 1, 1-1 and 1-2. So these are the halide dominated phases. So if you look at another direction, so you still can see the distribution of these phases, and note that the 2A time depth in here is about 1 second. By using 3D modeling, so now we can even make the 3D model for these internal salt phases. In here, you can see the halide dominated salt phases. They are filled with this red and yellow color. So they are distributed in the middle part of the salt diapir. For this salt type here, so the gross cavern volume for phase number 1, so that is for the yellow and the red color. So it's reached about 12 cubic kilometer. If we assume that we can use half of these phases for making these salt caverns, so we still have usable cavern volume about 6 cubic kilometer, but this is a huge number. If you compare this number with wet-wet operations with salt caverns, for example, this Hontov, this salt cavern in Germany, so that is for the compressed air. So the cavern volume is this number. So that, but this small number allowed the output capacity of 290 million watt. So if you compare my number of 6 cubic kilometers to this one, so it is still possible and also have a bigger prospect. But there are always some risks of the salt caverns. So it can be classified into two kinds. The first is the cavern's instability caused by the cavern collapse and also the contraction of the cavity. And then there was a leach out of the stored gas. So now, what should we do is to mitigate the risk of this salt caverns instability. So one of the most important practice that is that we should stay away from the fractures that's the inside or surrounding the salt structures. That's why I conducted my research to use multiple seismic attribute method to characterize the fracture zones around the salt dipiers. So traditionally, we used original seismic data to interpret the fault or fractures in or around the salts. And people also use different kinds of seismic attribute. For example, the RMS, the chaos, and the variance attribute to map these fractures or faults. But there were several other advanced technologies. So they mixed all of this attribute together. So there was one technique is called color mixer. So they use at least 3 attribute and assign them with different colors. So they can still so the fractures around the salt structures can still be displayed in this time slices. But I was more focused on this date-weighted blend method. By using this method, I do not need to assign 3 colors for different attribute. So all of these attributes, they preserve the original color ramps. But this weighted blending method allows you to assign the percentage of for each attribute. In this case, you can see the date-weighted blend method in here. It displays all of the fractures and also the faults around the salt structures. And most importantly, if you look inside this salt type here, so this very chaotic and messy area here. Here is the halite dominated phases. And it's possible for me to understand so which kind of expression came from which attribute. For example, if you look at this fractures, so it's very sensitive to the variance and the chaos. But if you look at this shaded area, so this is usually from the RMS seismic attribute. If you look at the profile through the salt dipole number 1, so here is the original seismic profile. So now you can see inside it and also around it, you do not see much of these anomalies. But if you look at the RMS, so that is something happening inside here and also in the area surrounding the salt dipole in here. The same, if you look at the chaos, you still can see these anomalies and the same in the variance. If you look at the data weighted blend in here, so now you can see the overall geometry of the salt dipole, and also you can see there was a cloud of anomaly surrounding the salt dipole in here. Now, if we compare this profile with the previous one, so now we can see the halide dominated salt bodies is in the middle part in here, which is the golden and missing area in the middle. For the next step, I did the statistics with the time slices from 256 milliseconds and all the way down to 2496 milliseconds in a step of 64 milliseconds. So with these time slices, it allows me to, so I will give you an example. So this one is the time slice at 1088 milliseconds. So this time slices allow me to calculate the size of the salt stock, like in here is 10.5 square kilometers. And also it allows me to define the fracture zone, so which is included by this dashed line. So the area for the fracture zone is more than 40 square kilometers. If you just do a simple calculation to compare the size from the fracture zone to the salt zone, so now you can see the ratio would be almost 4:1. So that means the size of the fracture zone is 4 times of the salt stock. And this time slices allows me to count how many faults or fractures were developed in this time slice. So for example, in here, I counted 43. So this is just one of the time slice. So if we put the statistics together, so then you will see the vertical distribution of the sizes of the salt stock in this purple color, and also the fracture zone and the ratio between from the fracture zone to the salt stock. And the most interestingly is that you can look at the vertical distribution of countable fractures or faults around the salt dipole. So that means if we want to use the halide dominated phases for making salt caverns, so we should stay far away from these areas with much fractures. So for the next step, I can put above statistics of areas and make an ideal geometry of the salt stock and also the fracture zone. So now you can see you can see how these two bodies can be compared in a 3D view. You remember previously I talked about this this chart introduced this technical requirement for making salt caverns. So there's 500 meters of a buffer zone from the edge of the salt stock. So if I apply this 500 meters buffer zone to this salt stock, so if we want to construct salt caverns, so ideally we should do it within this blue envelope. Here is the simple practice. If we plan salt caverns within this salt dipole number 1, so here is one of the suggestions. So we can plan these salt caverns in this upper part. So this part is about 1.2 kilometers from the seabed, and the height of each cavern is 150 meters. So the diameter of the cavern is 50 meters. And here is the optimized distribution of the salt caverns. So now you can see all of, so with this plan, so it allows us to make a total number of 64 salt caverns with a total cavern volume of 18.83 cubic kilometers. So the previous researchers suggested that the storage capacity per salt cavern is 0.06 to 0.2 terawatt hour. So I just did a simple calculation and reached a number of the total storage capacity for this salt cavern is 3.8 to 12.8 terawatt hour. So in general, after this research, I found that the 44 salt dipoles, the sweet spots in the southern North Sea, have the broadest prospect towards the way of EU27 plus UK underground hydrogen storage operation by 2050. But I only revealed a corner of an iceberg. So further detailed research in salt dipoles on the entire Norwegian continental shelf is urgent. So thank you so much for your attention, and me and my colleagues, we thank the center to provide me this opportunity to work on this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a very interesting presentation, very educational for me. I see we don't have any questions in the chat, but if there's anyone that would like to ask Sean a question, I believe you can raise your hand or put it in the chat. We can get to it. Well, then I guess that was very clear and thorough for everyone. So then thank you again for your attendance. And we will see you next month. Will be February 28th. Paul Anderson and Jassim Abbasi are going to be presenting on physics-informed neural networks. So you can join us again then. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.